thus avoiding paying him a licensing fee. George Tuska also contributes sketchographs, 1,000 in total, along with 1,000 autographs cards at $2 a sketch and $1 an autograph, which led to him make $1,000 in one day off the autograph cards, part of a Marvel card line. All of these have since become collector items today. Tuska finally worked at DC when Vinnie Coletta recruited him, as his work ethic on being able to pencil 2 to 3 pages a day made him popular on top of his skill. There he worked on DC romance titles like Falling in Love and Girl Love Stories before moving on to Challengers of the Unknown, Teen Titans, and Masters of the Universe. Of all the genres George Tuska worked on, he hated horror the most, though he did contribute a few features I mentioned earlier, such as Avesta's Interest and Eerie. Meanwhile, he would continue to work freelance for Joe Simon, Harvey, Dale, Archie, Tower, and Warren. For Joe Simon, he was also contributed to Sick, his humor magazine, for 10 years. Tuska would return to comic strips again for 4 years with The World's Greatest Superheroes, which was a daily strip by Paul Levitz, while Vinnie Coletta inked Tuska's pencils. This would also lead to Tuska to do a daily Superman strip for several years, which the strip morphed into eventually after being canceled in 1985. By the late 1970s, though, George Tuska was reaching the end of his career as his hearing and communication was becoming too difficult, with Jim Shooter calling his run on Daredevil in 1977, which Shooter scripted, not the best of the legendary artist. Thankfully, George Tuska would later have a revival as he started attending conventions in 1997 when he won the Inkpot Award at the San Diego Comic-Con convention. Tuska was still occasionally penciling work, like Wildcat's Mosaic with writer Scott Lobel for Image Comics. He later returned to his home in New Jersey, though he still got up to work at his drawing desk every morning in his spare bedroom of his house, which was adorned with memories of his long career, such as a photo of Stan Lee, his Hall of Fame award, and an Iron Man statue a fan gave him. Penciling commissions, covers, and the occasional comic book. His last published work would be on Masquerade No. 2 in March of 2009 for Dynamite Entertainment, and it would be his last work. As of October 15th to 16th, it was around midnight, George Tuska died of a stroke. He was survived by his wife Dot and her 3 children, along with a legacy of work on comic books. While not a superstar, Tuska was one of the medium's great working artists, leaving his mark on comic strips and books from Buck Rogers to Iron Man, and continued to work literally to his dying day like the true professional that he was. I would like to thank the chief source for this episode, The Art of George Tuska by Dewey Castle with Aaron Sultan and Mike Gartland, which featured a great interview by George Tuska along with many other numerous comic book greats he worked with, from Roy Thomas to John Romita Sr. Of course, it also features great reprints of his classic art, a must-read for any comic book fan. And now it was April 16th, 2020, time for, well, the favorite read of the week, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Changes Constant Volume 1, which collects the first few issues of the relaunch under IDW of the classic comic book series, in which Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird teamed up again along with Tom Waltz and Dan Duncan to reboot the Turtles' origins for modern day while still paying good homage to the original. If you remember my episode on the history of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles back a little while back, you realize that when Peter Laird sold the Turtles' rights to Viacom, part of the deal was he was allowed to still produce a comic book, and this is it right here. And you could tell they just wanted to go back to just being comic book creators, not running the Turtles empire. And, you know, at a certain point, this becomes crazy. You stop being able to do the thing you love, and Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman are at their heart comic book creators. And this is still a very fun reboot. They had an interesting twist in the origin where a new villain, Hob, is now a major player, and he has the ties back to the origin with the Turtles and Splinter. But also still paying tribute. For instance, April O'Neil has his original job as a lab tech as over being a reporter and so forth. And yeah, pretty fun start this reboot series overall. The art is a little bit loose, but nicely gritty, which also harkens back to the original Turtles as well. And just a fun read for me in the end. So if you're a Turtles fan, especially of the original run by Eastman and Laird, this is a nice thing to pick up. And if you can, try to pick up your local comic book store because they can use all the help you get. Granted, I have heard there are plans to slowly start opening up businesses again. But till then, try to give as much local business as you can. But of course, follow any self-quarantine guidelines, social distancing, stay healthy and safe. And with that, this will actually be the conclusion of Season 2 of the History of Comic Books podcast, as despite the whole COVID thing, I'm still working full time, so I haven't had time to do all my research and making these episodes as best I can. And I'm always trying to improve and get a little better, like my speaking ability and so forth like that. So I would argue doing a podcast like this does help a great deal on that as well. But frankly, I've run out of material I can produce at the moment. I'm currently doing lots of research and script writing and so forth, but this season 2 has now come to an end. But don't worry, I'll be back again next week with new editions of the Classics episodes that will not only give you some great ideas to watch or read while still having to self-quarantine, but go back in some great comic books of history. And until then, go out and enjoy some good comic book, and once again, try to support your local comic book store.